Morning, people. Hey, it's Monday on the Morning Night Live. Thank goodness for coffee, because holy smokes, I'm tired. My Mondays start at 1 a.m., so I go to bed early, but I get up really early, as in barely past the crack of midnight, and then I get home here, and I'm wiped out. But hey, that's why I'm a little bit late. We ran a little late this morning. But I'm here. I'm queer. Get used to it. Wait a minute. That didn't quite sound right. But hey, I just got some few things to get caught up on from the weekend, and got a couple videos coming out this afternoon. Mainly just clips from my Saturday show if you weren't here, and we'll get that all started in just a minute. Play the intro, Johnny. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, PDawg Night. Stop the music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live on this Monday, June 15th, 2020. Yes, you have 30 days to get your taxes done, because tax day got moved back to July 15th. So get on that. And I heard some rumors there might be a second stimulus package check coming sometime, and I still haven't gotten the first one. I'm really disappointed about that, but well, hopefully me and Lady Boomer will see that coming soon. But, you know, whatever. We weren't really expecting it anyway, and both of us have been working the whole time. So I'm not sure why we would get one anyway, but in theory, we're all supposed to get them. So I'm hoping to get mine. Anyway, you got a lot to get caught up on from the weekend. I got a kind of a no theme today as far as the stories go. Yes, it says stories and data is my title. Oh, I didn't even tweet that out, did I? Did anyone tweet that out? Looks like a bunch of you have. I haven't. Well, I'm going to just retweet all of you then, because that's just how it goes. And thanks to Collins, who came but had to go or something at work. So I'm just going to retweet all of you and probably annoy everyone on my timeline. But thanks for tweeting out the show. Cindy Rochelle, Necrosol Collins, Cynical Lindsay, and Maddie, the news chick. So if you want to if you're on Twitter, retweet those. I'm not going to do my own today. Let's say hi to everybody real quick, and then we'll get it started. Stabbing Joe Scarborough in the house first and gets the bell. Thank you for being here, and don't hurt me. Thank you. Good morning, Cindy Rochelle. Good morning, Richo, my friend from Down Under. Renee Miette. Malia Carr, another friend from Down Under. Good morning, James Crow, who is an occasional listener, and I'm glad you're here today. Good morning, Sean DW, Jen T, Sean DW. Did I already say Sean? I did, didn't I? Silly me. Let's see. Also, hey Larry. That's the name. Hey Larry, what's up? How you doing? And who else is here? Advocatus Diabli, the Devil's Advocate, Midday Sun, Keenan, Jonas Pedersen, and I think that might be it. Oh, and Maddie. I think I said Maddie already. And also, good morning, Ex-Bubba Hotep, who's in the hizzo. It's a great morning. And also all of you who are lurking or just have to kind of watch in the background or listen in the background, while you're working or driving or whatever you do, don't get distracted. Don't run off the road. Don't, just be safe out there. Good morning, Pete, also, who just showed up in the bottom of my chat. And Black Hebrew Israelite. That's right. Is in the house. All right. Oh, by the way, it is Metal Monday, so we will have a little bit of rock and roll type music. The metal variety will be the theme today, music-wise. Yes, that's what we do on Mondays. Metal Mondays, Funky Fridays, and everything in between is just a roll of the dice. But it'll be Metal Monday today. All right, let's get it started. You know, the first thing I wanted to talk about today was this article I saw yesterday. I was reading, and I almost went online yesterday. I went live yesterday. I was going to redo this story, but then I got to gardening. Yesterday, let's say we planted coneflowers and black-eyed Susans. I based from about 15 plants yesterday we added to our flower garden because all my coneflowers got killed. Now, I don't know why I'm talking about plants right now, but that kind of tells you why I didn't take care of this yesterday. Anyway, I got this story about by Coleman Hughes, who's a writer who writes at the City Journal. And it kind of, I kind of like it's stories that describe kind of how I feel about some things, although not everything in this article I agree with. But I thought it was poignant as far as just the kind of the awakening that this guy had regarding this topic. So this is called Stories and Data, Reflection on Race, Riots, and Police. By Coleman Hughes. The brutal death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police officers has sparked protests and riots around the United States. We've witnessed humanity at its finest, at its ugliest. Citizens of faraway nations have expressed solidarity with Black Americans. Police officers marched alongside protesters. Protesters have defended businesses against looting and destruction. At the same time, rioters have burned down buildings and looted businesses. Protesters have been pepper sprayed and beaten. Cops have been shot and run over with cars. At the root of the unrest is the Black Lives Matter movement, which began with the acquittal of George Zimmerman in 2013 and rose to national prominence in the wake of Michael Brown's death in 2014. My view of BLM is mixed. On one hand, I agree that police departments too often have tolerated and even enabled corruption. Rather than relying on impartial third parties, departments often decide whether to discipline their own officers. The legal doctrine of qualified immunity sets what many say is an unreasonably high bar for civilians bringing civil rights lawsuits against police officers. Body cams, which increase transparency to the benefit of both wrongly treated police suspects and wrongly accused police, are not yet universal in the face of police unions that oppose even reasonable reforms. Black Lives Matter seems a force for positive change. On the other hand, the basic premise of Black Lives Matter is that racist cops are killing unarmed black people is false. There was a time when I believed it. I was 1 year younger than Trayvon Martin when he was killed in 2012, and like many black men, I felt like he could have been me. I was the same age as Michael Brown when he was killed in 2014, and like so many others, I shared the BLM hashtag on social media to express solidarity. By 2015, when the now familiar list had grown to include Tamir Rice, Laquan McDonald, Sandra Bland, Freddie Gray, and Walter Scott, I began wearing the shirt with all their names on it. It became my favorite shirt. It seemed plain to me that these were not just tragedies, but racist tragedies. Any suggestions to the contrary struck me as, at best, ignorant, and at worst, bigoted. My opinion slowly changed. I still believe that racism exists and must be condemned at the strongest possible terms. I still believe that, on average, police officers are quicker to rough up a black or Hispanic suspect, and I still believe that police misconduct happens far too often and routinely goes unpunished. But I no longer believe that the cops disproportionately kill unarmed black Americans. Two things changed my mind: stories and data. First, the stories. Each story in this paragraph involves a police officer killing an unarmed white person. To demonstrate how commonly this happens, I have taken all of them from a single year, 2015, chosen at random. Timothy Smith was killed by a police officer who was mistakenly thought he was reaching into his waistband to grab a gun. The shooting was ruled justified. William Lemon was killed after he allegedly failed to show his hands upon request. The shooting was ruled justified. Ryan Bollinger was shot dead by a cop who said he was moving strangely and walking toward her. The shooting was ruled justified. Derek Cruz was shot in the face. Let me pause just for a second for this super chat. And thank you. This is Kyle with a 3333, throwing a little Shaqadelic up in the house. Hello, chat people and PDawg. How's everyone doing today? Well, Kyle, I am fantastic, thank you. And I hope everyone in the chat is. Also, by the way, Select the Boys here.
Yeah, boy.
Also, welcome MC.
Hammer time.
Good morning, Amy in Connecticut. Good morning, Big Assassin 80. And, come on. Amy, did I see Katie to skate here somewhere? I see someone said hi to her. I know you're here somewhere. Okay, I think I'm caught up. Okay, let's continue here. William Lemon was killed after he allegedly failed to show his hands upon request. The shooting was ruled justified. Ryan Bollinger was shot dead by a cop who said he was moving strangely walking toward her. The shooting was ruled justified. Derek Cruz, I think, was shot in the face after he opened the door for a police officer serving a warrant for a drug arrest. The cop recovered marijuana from the property, and the shooting was ruled justified. Daniel Elrod robbed a dollar store and, when confronted by police, allegedly failed to raise his hands upon request, though his widow, who witnessed the event, insisted otherwise. He was shot dead. No criminal charges were filed. Ralph Rillis was shot dead when officers mistakenly thought that he was reaching for a gun. David Kasich was shot twice in the back by a police officer lying face down on the ground. 6-year-old Jeremy Martis was killed by a police officer while sitting in the passenger seat of a car. The officer's intended target was Jeremy's father, who was sitting in the driver's seat with his hands raised out the window. Autumn Steele was shot dead when a police officer, startled by her German Shepherd, immediately fired his weapon at the animal, catching her in the crossfire. Shortly after he killed her, body cam footage revealed the officer's despair. "I'm fucking going to prison," he says. The officer was not disciplined. For brevity's sake, I will stop there, but the list goes on. For every black person killed by the police, there is at least one white person, usually many killed in a similar way. The day before the cops in Louisville barged into Breonna Taylor's home and killed her, cops barged into the home of a white man named Duncan Lemp, killed him, and wounded his girlfriend who was sleeping beside him. Even George Floyd, whose death was particularly brutal, has a white counterpart, Tony Timpa. Timpa was killed in 2016 by a Dallas police officer who used his knee to pin Timpa to the ground, face down, for 13 minutes. In the video, you can hear Timpa whimpering and begging to be let go. After he lets out his final breath, the officers began cracking jokes about him. Criminal charges initially brought against them were later dropped. At a gut level, it's hard for most people to feel the same level of outrage when a cop kills a white person. Perhaps that is as it should be. After all, for most of American history, it was white suffering that provoked more outrage. But I would submit that if this is the new anti-racist bias, if this new anti-racist bias is justified, if we now have a moral obligation to care more about certain lives than others based on skin color or based on racial historical blood guilt, then everything that I thought I knew about basic morality and everything that the world's philosophical and religious traditions have been saying about common humanity, revenge, and forgiveness since antiquity should be thrown out the window. You might agree that the police kill plenty of unarmed white people, but object that they are more likely to kill unarmed black people relative to their share of the population. Well, that's where the data comes in. The objection is true as far as it goes, but it's also misleading. To demonstrate the existence of racial bias, it's not enough to cite the fact that black people comprise 14% of the population, but about 35% of unarmed Americans shot by police. By that logic, you could prove that police shootings were extremely sexist by pointing out that men comprise 50% of the population, but 93% of unarmed Americans shot by cops. Instead, you must do what good social scientists do, control for confounding variables to isolate the effect that one variable has upon another. In this case, the effect of the suspect's race on a cop's decision to pull the trigger. At least 4 careful studies have done this, one by Harvard economist Ronald Fryer, one by a group of public health researchers, one by economist Sandil Mulianathan, and one by David Johnson et al. None of these studies found a racial bias in deadly shootings. Of course, that hardly settles the issue for all time, as always more research is needed. But given the studies already done, it seems unlikely that future work will uncover anything close to the amount of racial bias that BLM protesters in America and around the world believe exists. All of which makes my view of Black Lives Matters complicated. If not for BLM, we probably would not be talking about ending qualified immunity, making body cams universal, increasing police accountability, and so forth. At least not to the same extent. In fact, we might not even have a careful national database on police shootings. At the same time, the core premise of the movement is false. And if not for the dissemination of this falsehood, social relations between blacks and whites would be less tense, trust in police would be higher, and businesses all across America might have been spared the looting and destruction that we have seen in recent weeks. But isn't this the price of progress? Isn't there a long tradition of using violence to throw off the shackles of white supremacy, going back to the Haitian Revolution and the American Civil War? Didn't the urban riots of the late 1960s wake Americans up to the fact that racism did not end with the Civil Rights Act of 1965? Well, to start, any analogy to slave rebellions or justified revolutions can be dismissed immediately. Taking up arms directly against those enslaving you is one thing. Looting clothing stores and destroying grocery stores is something else entirely. We must be careful not to confuse the protesters with the rioters. The former are committed to nonviolence. The latter are simply criminals and should be treated as such. As for the riots of the late 1960s, progressives should not praise them for shocking Americans into action without also noting that they helped elect Richard Nixon president, which progressives certainly did not intend, that they directly decreased the wealth of inner-city black homeowners, and that they scared capital away from inner cities for decades. Oh, that's happening right now in Minneapolis. Worsening the very conditions of poverty and unemployment that the rioters were supposedly protesting. What's more, the case for violence rests on the false notion that without it, little progress can be made. Recent history tells a different story. In 2018, the NYPD killed 5 people, down from 93 people in 1971. In 2001, the national incarceration rate for black men ages 18 to 29 has gone down by more than half. Put simply, we know progress through normal democratic means is possible because we have already done it. In a perfect world, I would like to see the yearly number of unarmed Americans killed by police decrease from 55, the number in 2019, to 0. But the more I think about how we would achieve this, the less optimistic I am. At a glance, copying the policies of nations with very few police shootings seems like a promising path, but on a closer inspection, one realizes how uniquely challenging the American situation is. First, America is a huge country, the 3rd largest in the world by population. That means that extremely low probability events, such as police shootings, will happen much more frequently here than they do elsewhere. For instance, if America were the size of Canada... Thank you, Black Hebrew Israelite, for the super chat. I'll read that in just a moment. For instance, if America were the size of Canada, but otherwise identical, about 6 unarmed people would have been killed by police last year, not 55. That's just per capita. Thank you, Black Hebrew Israelite, who says they burned down the Wendy's because a drunk driver fell asleep at the drive-thru, then fought off 2 police officers. He took the officer's taser while running away. He shot at the officer with the taser.
That's right.
Why we're co-signing this bullshit?
That's right.
Not co-signing that bullshit. That was not. I don't consider that an unarmed man, and I personally think that that incident, as I've seen all the videos of it now, was justified. I thought that was a justified use of force. There are certainly people who don't, or maybe, here's the thing. When that happened, the way it was presented via Twitter and all the social media was that that the police shot an unarmed man while he was running away, without any other details. We'll get into that one in a minute, but I agree. Let me finish this up real quick. Second, America is a gun country, which makes policing in America fundamentally different than policing in other nations. When a cop pulls someone over in the United Kingdom, where the rate of gun ownership is less than 1/20th the American rate, they have almost no reason to fear that that person they've stopped has a pistol hidden in the glove compartment. That's not true in America, where a cop gets shot just about every day. So long as we are a gun country, American police will always be liable to mistake a suspect's wallet or smartphone for a gun. And we will not be able to legislate that fact away, at least not completely. A third factor, not unique to America, is that we live in a smartphone age, which means that there are millions of cameras at the ready to ensure that the next police shooting goes viral. Well, or the media will blow it up, one of the two. Overall, this is a good thing. It means that cops can no longer reliably get away with lying about their misbehavior to escape punishment, and that the claims of those accusing police in such situations will face objective video scrutiny. But it also means that our news feeds are perpetually filled with outlier events, also known as man bites dog. I talk about that a lot. Outlier events presented to us as if they were the norm. In other words, we could cut the rate of deadly shootings by 99%, but if the remaining 1% are filmed, then the public perception will be that shootings have remained steady. And it is the public perception, more than the underlying reality, that provokes riots. Good morning, Maniac Man. Combine all three of these observations, and one arrives at the grim conclusion: as long as we have a non-zero rate of deadly shootings, a virtual certainty, and as long as some shootings are filmed and go viral, also a virtual certainty, then we may live in perpetual fear of urban unrest for the foreseeable future. I would like to believe that were not true. The only way out of this conundrum, it seems to me, is for millions of Americans on the left to realize that deadly police shootings happen to blacks and whites alike. As long as a critical mass of people view this as a race issue, they will see every new video of a black person being killed as yet another injustice in a long chain dating back to the Middle Passage. That sentiment, when it is felt deeply and earnestly, will reliably produce large protests and destructive riots. I wish that weren't true. The political right has a new role to play as well. For too long, all lives matter has been a slogan used only as a clapback to Black Lives Matter. What it should have been, and still could be, and I've said this before, is a true movement to reduce the number of Americans shot by police on a race-neutral basis. If the challenge for the left is to accept that the real problem with the police is not racism, and the challenge for the people on the right to accept that there are real problems with the police, are also known as statism. If the level of discourse among our public officials stays where it currently is, partisan and shallow, then there is not much hope. In a worst-case scenario, we may see a repeat of the George Floyd riots every few years. But if we can elevate the national discourse, if we can actually have that honest and uncomfortable conversation about race that people have been claiming to want for years, then we might have a chance. So, what say you in the chat about this article? I actually like it. Let's protesters aren't so innocent either. They have blocked roads without permit, allowing it when they're breaking law. This is Kyle. Yeah, true. Oh, you guys are getting into the thing about Seattle and some of these cities. Let's see, back here, kind of pressure from truckers is probably a more American way of dealing with it than just having a brawl with bikers. Oh, well, you know, the thing with the truckers too, I read this morning that some of the trucker, not Yukons, I don't know what there's an idea that truckers may refuse to go into cities that are supposedly defunding police. Pete, wait, what? White people die too? Yeah, he gave a whole list of them here. There's no way the left will confront the reality as they have as they have gained power peddling the lie. You know, MC, that's MC. I tend to agree with you there. Oh, what's wrong with Streamlabs, Joe? Something's wrong with it? I don't know what's going on. Worse, the left benefits too much from racism within the minority community. You know what it is? It's kind of that, I don't know what the theory is called, but there's a lot of people who rely on racism for their living. So if you can stoke fires and make the perception that racism permeates everything you do and every interaction, that keeps some people being able to, raise money, Like I was looking at these, we went through that list the other day of how much money all these companies are pledging to, I don't even know what to call it, pledging to, improving race relations or to these groups that are all these grievance grifting groups, and I hate to call them that, but it's probably the greatest description. They're all these groups that that raise money off of the racial strife of the times, and it's a very lucrative thing, I don't know. It's just crazy. But I think Coleman Hughes is correct here in that, I've talked about this before. When I think of the phrase Black Lives Matter and the idea that all lives matter, comes to my head like almost immediately, because I know the actual statistics. I know that, it's almost, 2/3 of the people killed by police, in police actions are white, even though blacks are only 13% of the population. But I also know that a great percentage of the violent crime and it happens in black communities. I also know that, the highest cause of death of men ages 15 to 45 in the black community is homicide, which is mostly caused by homicides. I know that, when it's interracial crime, there are more black and white crime and this and that. But I also know when police kill people, it's almost always in a case where somebody's life is in danger, either the cop themselves or another person's. In the cases where they are unarmed, even most of those are cases where it's someone using a vehicle as a weapon, so that's unarmed, but they're trying to hit the cop or trying to back into a cop, and so they get shot. Or they're still attacking the officer, but Michael Brown is considered an unarmed person killed. But Michael Brown, there are witnesses who said that he went after the cop, tried to get his gun, shot the car, then charged at him again when he got out of the car. So it's, and now there are the cases like the Breonna Taylor where the police completely and utterly screwed up. There are cases like George Floyd and Tony Timpa where the police kind of forgot what the purpose of their job was because they were too busy being powerful or exerting their power over somebody. And granted, now the case with Timpa, I don't know the whole, all I saw was the video of when they're holding him down. And I know the case of Floyd, he resisted arrest. But even if he did resist arrest, even if he did, your situational awareness requires you to find a way to bring that man in alive, not knocking him out and killing him and not knowing it until it's too late. Thank you, Kingslayer Damocles, with the $2 super chat. I bet if dude was a cop, he would have gotten a ride home and tucked into bed, no shot. Are you talking about the guy in Atlanta? Yeah, well, you know what the difference is there? In the regular chat, Kingslayer Damocles, by the way, good morning. Are you talking, in the chat, just answer my question real quick. Are you talking about the guy in Atlanta who got shot? Because if the dude was a cop, yeah, he may not have been arrested. They might have called him an Uber. But if you watch the whole thing from the sobriety test to everything, you know, yeah, you're talking about Atlanta. Okay. Yeah, you're right. There might have been some professional courtesy there where they would have maybe called him an Uber or something. But in that case, now, you know, some people did everything before the scuffle and when he stole the taser and hit the one cop with the taser. Yeah, no one mentions that. He hit the one cop in the head with the taser before he got. But first of all, let's say if it was a cop, okay? Let's say if it was a cop and they had to arrest him. Now, I've seen video of cops being arrested for drunk driving. Would the cop have tried to fight the other two cops? If let's say the dude in Atlanta was a white guy, do you think it would have went any different if the white guy did exactly the same thing as this guy? So went through, because there was 20 minutes of polite talk between them, and I mean, I've seen all the video now because I watched some of it last night when I was watching Poisoning the Well guys so I saw the parts that I hadn't seen. There's 20 minutes of very cordial talk. There was no animosity between the two. The guys were, the cop and that guy, I can't remember what the guy, someone put this name in the chat. I can't think of it offhand. They were all, everyone was all polite. And then they finally said, you know, I'm sorry, you know, we got to take this breathalyzer because, you know, whatever. And they did the breathalyzer. And then they said, you know, we have to arrest you. That's when it went south. The guy decides to refuse to, you know, doesn't take the handcuffs, and then starts fighting with them. Then takes the taser off the guy, and you know, the rest is what it is. This isn't like just some. This isn't just like. This guy would have been shot no matter who he was, based on that situation. And again, when he turns to point the weapon back at the cop that is the closest cop who's chased him, who's also deploying a taser, you know, I don't even know if that cop knew. The pigs are trained to be cowards. This wasn't a sneeze, though. Sean. The only victim of the incident was Richard. Well, yeah. Well, and I don't know. I guess I'm confused as to what they should have done. You know? Look at the Philando Castile incident. Yeah, the Philando Castile incident's fucked up. You know, yeah, he flipped like a switch. I'm not sure what that means. You know, the Philando Castile situation. You know, I still, you know, as I watch that Philando Castile one, I'm curious. You know, I don't know that the officer should have shot him, but I'm curious why Philando Castile is running around with a gun in his lap. I just, you know, that's odd. You know, the problem with his concealed carry permit, a lot of people say, oh, it's concealed carry. The NRA should have been should have, stood up for him. Well, the problem is that his concealed carry permit in Minnesota requires you not to be any form of intoxication while you have your weapon, and that is our state law. For a concealed carry. So his concealed carry permit wasn't valid. Just FYI. NRA never stands up. Well, there's a case in. Well, the NRA. Yeah, you're right. The NRA never stands up for individuals. Only people who are from the NRA stand up for individuals. I don't know. Give him a ride home or call him an Uber. Yeah, maybe, or maybe arrest him for drunk driving. Should we do that for every drunk driver? Do you think that's the case? That's it, because I've heard that one too. Kingslayer, damn, please give him a ride home, or call him an Uber. And then what? Just cite him and have him come to court? Are there any cases where drunk drivers should be jailed? That's interesting. That's a good question. Do we just take drunk drivers from now on and give them a ride home or call them an Uber and charge them later? I don't know. That's an interesting idea, and I probably would solve some of these cases, but I don't think they should let slide, as in I think someone said in the chat. I don't think that's the good idea. I mean, what's Mother Against Drunk Drivers going to say? Mother's. There's another group that if you eliminated drunk driving, would they lose all their support? I don't know. But I mean, he's drunk enough to fallen asleep in the drive-thru. Good question. That's a good question. Anyway. Who was out of jail because of COVID? Richard was? Anyway. All right. Anyway, very interesting topic there. I don't have the answers. It's funny because he blew a .108 or something like that, which, when I was when I was younger, it's like .08 in every state now. It used to be .10 was your drunk driving limit. Back during my parents' age, it was .15, but that had to go through a blood check. I don't know. So he's over the current legal limit, barely over the former legal limit. But, and here's the other thing. When you say, call him an Uber or give him a ride home, shouldn't he have done that himself? Is there any responsibility for that? Now, let's just take this. Let's say that he wasn't killed. Let's just say that they arrest him for drunk driving. If they had arrested him for drunk driving and made him spend the night in jail and then get his bail and then have to go to court, would that have been okay? I mean, that's what they were trying to do, right? That's what they're trying to do. And you know what? I just don't understand. So when the police finally say you're under arrest, is it okay to start fighting with them, tackling them to the ground, stealing their taser? Now, that shouldn't be a death sentence. But in this case, I think procedurally, he points that he runs it, then turns and points that taser back. That's the point where it's allowed to have. Well, battered and kidnapped. That's an interesting way to put it. Would that have been battery? Would he have been battered if he had just been arrested? So, okay, here's for not hurting anyone? Well, that's a fair question. Should people be arrested for drunk driving if they haven't hurt anyone yet? Well, I don't know. I think it would certainly lessen your proclivity to be a drunk driver another time. You know, because remember, this guy's wasn't from Georgia either. He's visiting from South Carolina. So what's his incentive to even come back for the trial? If we're just gonna Uber you home and give you your car back later, and then we'll have a ticket for you to come to court. I don't know. So that's a tough question, I guess. You know. Well, Dog, that's what if about running over a family because he's shithoused? Can they arrest him for that? Well, yeah, he said he qualified it with having not hurt anybody yet. Okay, even though he passed out in the drive-thru of a Wendy's. Battery, unwanted touching, and kidnapping to hold against one's will. Hey, well, that's being arrested. Okay, people get arrested for a lot of different things. And so the question is, should people be arrested for drunk driving? And I don't know. I tend to. I guess I gotta look at from my libertarian sensibility says sure, make it so it's a victimless crime and have heavy fines and court. So let's say for example, what if he had just crashed into a pole and totaled his car and he was drunk? Would you consider it kidnapping and battery to arrest him for being drunk and crashing into a pole? That's a victimless crime, right? It's just a pole. Did it hurt? Maybe, probably damaged his car more than the pole. Drunk driving should be a tack on charge and not a charge itself. Really? That sounds like something you would do. So apparently it's not something that should be discouraged then. So if someone's swerving up and down the road, at a 0.25, for example, out of their mind drunk, but driving down the road, shouldn't I guess there's levels. The pole is property. So I think we're gonna respectfully disagree on this. He destroyed property of this victim. Okay. Okay, what if he drove into a ditch? I don't know. And didn't hit a pole. He drove into a ditch and wrecked his car, and you find out he's drunk. Jail or Uber home? I don't know. Good morning, Jay Wolf, and good afternoon, and just after work. Okay, well, I'm glad you came by. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think in Georgia, the current law is that you can arrest drunk drivers. And I swear, if I ever got caught drunk driving and they decided to arrest me, I don't think I'm going to tackle the police officers, fight with them for a minute or two, try to steal their gun, then run from them, and then point it back at them. I'd be like, well, I got busted. I'm going to jail for tonight, and hopefully I can reach Lady Boomer and she can come bail me out. I don't consider that battery or kidnapping. Okay, that's just the law. And there are things that if it's the law to arrest somebody for that, that's not battery and kidnapping. Kidnapping is a completely different thing. But it is an interesting conversation. I really actually I've enjoyed this one. This is a good one. All right, let's move on to the next thing, and now I'm going to just try to hit these quickly. Now, apparently, Biden has been facing some awkward questions because of some of his past statements. Now is the time for racial justice, Joe Biden declared in an address to George Floyd's recent funeral, signaling his acute awareness that racial issues have been thrust to the forefront of American politics for the foreseeable future. Yet Biden's hopes of adapting his campaign to reflect and take advantage of the suddenly transformed racial politics of the moment are greatly complicated by a long record of public statements and legislative actions not easily reconciled with the purist Black Lives Matter style approach to racial issues, emphasizing systemic racism, white guilt, and police violence that has overtaken large segments of the Democratic Party in the last 3 weeks. Nearly 50 years of politics have left the presumptive nominee with several racial albatrosses around his neck. Present Black Lives Matter zeitgeist has fixated significantly on the various Confederate statues that dot the American South, with activists calling for the monuments of rebel generals, soldiers, and politicians to come down. In many cases, rioters have destroyed these statues themselves rather than wait for municipal authorities to do it. Yet, Biden's own political track record contains two especially awkward votes. In 1975, he voted to posthumously restore the U.S. citizenship of Commander of the Confederate Army, General Robert E. Lee. We'll get to that in a second. And in 1977, he voted to do the same for the Confederacy. Confederacy's President Jefferson Davis, Kingslayer Damocles with the $2. And what's the difference between rape and a body cavity search? A judge's order. Oh, that is harsh. That is harsh. Thank you, Kingslayer Damocles, which isn't a joke. It's a joke, but it's also a poignant statement. That's very interesting. Yeah, I don't. But hey, here's the thing on that. First of all, there's well. Maybe there is, maybe there's. I don't think there's any joy in doing a body cavity search. And lots of interesting things have been found in body cavities during these body cavity searches. Usually the body cavity search usually is preempted or what's the word? Predecessor? I don't know, whatever that word that means that. By a drug sniffing dog. And yeah, the things that they find in body cavities. Ew. Anyway, those votes may be unsurprising from the perspective of American political history. Until fairly recently, the Democratic Party was firmly the party of the South. Jeff Davis himself was a Mississippi Democrat in the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives. Yet as late as 1987, Biden was still invoking a cultural affinity for the Old South when politically expedient. He told a group of Alabama supporters during his presidential bid that year that his state of Delaware was on the South side in the Civil War. The remark served as an awkward acknowledgement that, though Delaware did not secede with the South, it remained a slave state for the length of the war. Nothing makes Biden more suspect to a new generation of racial activists than his authorship of the landmark 1994 crime bill. The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994 provided for 100,000 new police officers across the country, several $1 billion in funding for prisons, and multiple new federal statutes involving gang activity and prostitution. It also expanded the number of crimes under which the federal government could seek the death penalty. And I mean, it went from like 20 to 70 different crimes that you could be put to death for by the federal government. Not real popular with the brothers, I'm just saying. At a time when defund the police is a trending slogan of the political left, Biden's crime bill may hinder his appeal among younger voters. Biden has conceded that questions about his support for that bill are legitimate, though he has denied that it is hurting his chances with younger Americans. younger Americans. Watch what I do. Biden implored with voters this week. Judge me based on what I do, what I say, and to whom I say it. Except you ain't black. Biden's problem of race are not confined to decades-old votes or episodes of political pandering to Southern whites. Even his recent history is spotted with memorable gaffes. What an inopportune time to have my lips fail me. That could cool enthusiasm for him among black voters, and from who he needs not just an overwhelming margin of support, but also a heavy turnout if he is to win in November. In 2007, referring to his then rival for the 2008 presidential nomination, and this is my favorite, Barack Obama, well, not Barack Obama, but Biden described Barack Obama as, quote, the first mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. The word articulate has long been a sensitive adjective among some black Americans who claim it is often deployed by white people with low expectations of blacks. Biden's remark drew scrutiny, as CNN put it at the time, though they ultimately did not dissuade Obama from choosing Biden as running mate. So anyway, the clean one is the one that really got me. I mean, yeah, the articulate, I would say articulate about a lot of people. I think Kristi Noem from South Dakota, the governor's articulate. I think Andrew Cuomo's articulate, even though some of the shit that comes out of his mouth is wrong. But the bright, wait. The first, okay, listen to this sentence again. The first mainstream African American. Listen to the quote again. The first mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. Now, at the time, I was somewhat a mainstream African American who I feel is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I think there's lots of African Americans who are articulate and bright and clean and nice looking guys. I'm pretty sure he meant the first, even if he meant the first African-American candidate. Well, because the only other African-American candidates of real record of the past were Jesse Jackson ran a couple times, and Al Sharpton ran, I think. Did Al Sharpton run for president? Yeah, he did. That's why, I don't know. And that didn't last very long. But come on, Joe. Joe. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm not going to read this whole article, but there's all of Biden's gaffes. But if you'd like to read the rest of it yourself, I will put it in the chat because it's fine. I find it humorous. All right, let's move on. Also, Michael Flynn, where this Michael Flynn circus is. Well, as the article says, Michael Flynn's circus devolves into court-weaponized partisanship. Media reports following Friday's oral arguments in the Michael Flynn criminal case focused on the D.C. Circuit's Court of Appeals' apparent hesitancy to order Judge Emmett Sullivan to dismiss the criminal charges against Flynn. But a second and more troubling theme went unnoticed: the further politicalization of the judicial system. The right has long condemned the unfortunate conversion of the third branch from a neutral arbiter of the law to a politically motivated policymaker. No longer do judges say what the law is; they pretend the law says what they want it to say. Last week's oral argument exposed a further degeneration of our supposedly impartial judiciary, that judges are moving beyond policymaking to outright electioneering. Sullivan, the trial judge presiding over the Flynn criminal case, crossed the line when he appointed retired Judge John Gleeson to serve as an amicus curiae, or friend of the court, and direct Gleeson to oppose the government's motion to dismiss the criminal charges against Flynn. Flynn, who had entered into a a plea agreement with the Special Prosecutor's Office for making false statements to FBI agents, sought to withdraw his plea and have the charge dismissed based on ineffective assistance of counsel and evidence of prosecutorial misconduct. Well, there's also exculpatory evidence, but anyway, while that motion remained pending, an independent review of the case by Missouri-based U.S. Attorney Jeff Jensen revealed prosecutors had withheld material exculpatory evidence from Flynn based on his review, and that evidence, Jensen recommended dismissal of the charge against Flynn. Following this recommendation, the acting U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia filed a motion to dismiss the charge against Flynn and supported that motion with a detailed explanation of the Department of Justice's reasoning, along with copies of the evidence improperly withheld from Flynn. Yet, rather than dismiss the case, Judge Sullivan announced he would accept amicus curiae briefs from the public, then appointed Gleason as a friend of the court to argue against dismissal. You know, this whole thing is silly. The Supreme Court, if it gets there, the Circuit Court, first of all, the Supreme Court just ruled on something like this not 6 weeks ago. And it was a unanimous decision that it is the government's prerogative who they are going to prosecute or not prosecute. So I don't even know how this is still going on. I think I have a second article on this, maybe. No, I don't. I thought I did. Well, here, let's see how much is left of this. I don't want to read this whole thing. No, I'm not going to read this whole thing. Anyway, this judge decided to bring in another judge to argue against the dismissal, who is already written a judge who's already written op-eds against Flynn and against the Trump administration. It's just some partisan bullshit, if you ask me. Anyway, how often does this happen where the prosecutor wants to drop the case, but the judge refuses to drop the charge? Well, it's unprecedented. This is the new. Well, Judge Sullivan would like this to be the new normal. It's crazy, and especially considering the fact that they've come up with new evidence, and the craziest part of this to me is the lawyers that Flynn had when he pleaded guilty. First of all, they refused to hand over the entire file to his new attorneys, which had some exculpatory evidence and also had information that the FBI believed Flynn. They didn't think he was lying, and then they changed their minds, reopened the case, and then charged him. But the people doing the investigation, the people who actually questioned him, didn't think he was lying. And then so they do this plea deal, okay? Which a plea deal, yeah, you agree to plea. There's plea deals all the time where people who might plead to something just to get a lesser charge because they don't think they can win against the FBI, who withheld evidence, and but then they find this new evidence with this new lawyer, Sidney Powell, who's doing outstanding work, and so they want to withdraw the plea, and the judge, who is not a person who's prosecuting, he's supposed to be an impartial judge, doesn't want to drop it. This is unheard of. So I think this is going to be, I think the circuit's going to go, well, we just had this case in the U.S. Supreme Court that you're an idiot. Anyway, back to Joe Biden real quick. Biden has narrowed down his list of candidates to be vice president, and 4 black women are in contention. A majority of the final contenders to be Joe Biden's running mate are black women. The other 2 women are Elizabeth Warren, who is a Native American, and Michelle Lujan Grisham, governor of New Mexico, who is Latina. So all minorities. Oh, wait a minute. Hold up. Did I say Elizabeth Warren, who's Native American?
How dare you?
Okay, I think I messed that up. Anyway, Business Insider reports Democratic presidential contender Joe Biden has narrowed down his list of vice presidential candidates, and it features several black women and a Latina and a... Wait a minute, the New Mexico governor's Latina? She's the whitest looking Latina I've ever seen. Anyway, that's not unusual though. Never mind. Sources close to Biden's campaign told the Washington Post that several candidates had now made it to the stage of comprehensive vetting to be Biden's potential running. You know who's missing though? Wait a minute. Where is Stacey Abrams? Oh, you know she is not happy. Anyway, so those are the kids. Now, so these are the finalists right now, but there's an interesting twist here. So Val Demings, the two-term congressman from Florida, apparently, like Harris, who's going to have, there's so many issues with some of these. I think, you know what? I almost think that he's going to pick the governor of New Mexico because all the rest of them have major baggage. So here's Val. Now, you probably haven't heard about Val Demings' baggage, but Biden under fire from Black Lives Matter for possible VP pick, ex-cop Val Demings. Now, Joe Biden, the Democrats' presumptive pick for the 2020 presidential contender, is already on thin ice with anti-racism activists after resisting the push to embrace calls to defund and disband police departments. But now, Black Lives Matter is concerned Biden may be about to select an ex-cop as his running mate. Same problem with Kamala Harris. Among Biden's top picks is Representative Val Demings, Democrat from Florida, two-term Florida congresswoman, best known for being one of the several legislators selected to lead the House team prosecuting President Donald Trump's Senate impeachment trial, and she has reportedly made it to the second round of vetting per the New York Post. But Demings, 27 years in the Orlando Police Department, where she rose from beat cop to first female chief, are complicating things. The outlet reports Demings rose from beat cop to chief of police in Orlando, Florida over a course of 2 decades, but in the 4 years she was the Orlando Police Department's top administrator, she was frequently embroiled in excessive force controversies, and she repeatedly defended the actions of officers. Oh, what goes around comes around, and that's a big problem for organizers like Black Lives Matter, who are currently at the forefront of American politics and setting the terms of the national conversation on race relations and law enforcement, particularly among the left and among Democrats. Quote, Joe Biden would be an idiot to put her on the ticket. People are already on the fence about him. Hank Newsom, the chairman of Black Lives Matter and Greater New York chapter, told the media. On at least 2 occasions, Demings' officers slammed a suspect so hard they sustained permanent physical damage, and the Post says an in-depth independent review of the Orlando Police Department found that rogue cops operate with impunity, and there is nothing anybody who finds himself at the wrong end of their short fuse can do about it. You know what? We got to get this shit under control. I want to be able to... Now, I'm coming from a place where I've never had a bad interaction with police, and probably because I don't know. Probably because I've never been caught doing anything I just anything stupid. But, the worst I think was speeding, I guess. But obviously we got to figure out how to fix this thing with the police. Because even in this story, she shouldn't be taken out of contention for this, even though I could care less because I'm not voting for Biden to save my life. But man, anyway, Demings has defended her record. Looking for a negative story in a police department is like looking for a prayer at a church. That's true. Good answer, Val. Demings wrote in an op-ed for the Orlando Sentinel. I believe a reasonable person also understands that a few seconds, even on video, rarely capture the entire set of circumstances. All right. So anyway, that's as much as I'm going to read. Moving on. Hillary Clinton on Friday was ordered to she appealed the order to testify on the private server and the Benghazi emails, and that kind of stayed under the radar. But here we go. Amid the chaos and anarchy across Blue City America that exclusively possessed public attention for the last couple of weeks, it was hard not to miss any other bit of news, especially if that news had not appeared or been even briefly mentioned by any major mainstream news outlets. Take, for example, the news of Hillary Clinton, who lost her appeal in the United States Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit on June 2nd, where she tried to avoid testifying under oath about her emails and the Benghazi case. The hearing in the D.C. Circuit came in the case Judicial Watch versus Clinton, a public records case involving a request for State Department documents and communication about the 2012 terror attack at the U.S. mission in Benghazi, Libya. U.S. Ambassador Christopher Stevens and 3 other Americans were killed in the attack. So this is the case where Judicial Watch was trying to get FOIA requests on emails and documents, and the State Department has been slow walking it, and they got it to a judge and said that they needed Clinton to testify because she's never, you notice one thing she's never had to do during this entire server scandal? Hillary Clinton has never had to testify under oath. Not even when she had testified before Congress. So Judicial Watch has been challenging much of the information and challenging a lot of the things that she's never had to answer under oath. How is that shit still a thing? Well, because she didn't, because she never got prosecuted. Judicial Watch wants the documents for the State Department because nobody's been able to get the documents that they've asked for. Even when Congress requested them, the State Department didn't press the State Department too hard, and so Judicial Watch, the watchdog group, has gone after it, and now they're getting it. And now she's actually going to have to testify under oath. So interesting, very interesting that she's going to have to do that. And her appeal to not testify under oath failed, so she's going to have to testify. Senate committee authorizes subpoena power in Obamagate probe, and it could be used against Jim Comey and Susan Rice. I'm not going to be stopped, somebody said. Senate Judiciary Committee voted to authorize subpoena power in the investigation into the motivation for the FBI to probe into Russian election interference. The vote allows Lindsey Graham to demand testimony and documents from infamous figures implicated in what many call Obamagate, including former FBI Director James Comey and former National Security Advisor Susan Rice. The 12-10 vote fell along partisan lines Tuesday. Today, the Judiciary Committee resumed its mission to get to the bottom of Crossfire Hurricane and the Russian investigation by authorizing dozens of new subpoenas to former Obama administration officials involved with these operations, said Graham in a tweet. So there you go. He's got subpoena power now. That'll be interesting. Andy Ashley, Hasley, how you doing? Someone else showed up. I think I said hi to Amy. Good morning, Adam Richard. TC Ball, who else? I think I'm caught up. Duck Dog's here now. I saw you too. And Kyra Alexander. All right, I'm caught up. All right, let's move on because I got to get through this. On that Flynn case, judge wants Flynn case in limbo under political pressure. Judge wants Flynn case in limbo under political pressure. Can't intervene. That's a weird headline there. Between the George Floyd protest and the coming election, Judge Wilkins is absolutely right to observe that powerful political forces could be brought to bear against Attorney General Barr. On Friday, June 12, 2020, the Court of Appeals for the Washington, D.C. Circuit held a telephonic hearing on a petition for a writ of mandamus filed by Michael Flynn and to seek an order forcing Judge Emmett Smith to accept the government's motion to dismiss. During the hearing, Judge Robert Wilkins revealed his impression of Judge Sullivan's strategy to keep the Flynn case open when both the prosecution and defense agreed the case should be over. Judge Wilkins argued, quote, if the government can't make the case go away and the case is in limbo, then while it is in limbo, pressure could be brought to bear on the government to reconsider the decision to dismiss. To understand how shocking and unfair is this approach to a criminal case, we need to place it in context. This is Adam Mill writing this. As I've written before, the government filed this motion because the case fell apart after the discovery of new evidence uncovered by U.S. Attorney Jeff Jensen. Attorney General Barr assigned Jensen to review the Flynn prosecution, and the prosecutorial misconduct allegations against Mueller alumnus Robert Van Grack became too credible to ignore. Flynn was charged with lying. Okay, we know the story. So the get Trump, I'll just skip over the part that's explaining it because we've read this several times. But in the Trump era, Flynn is not innocent, nor is his innocence relevant to the question of whether to punish him. Yeah, they just want to punish him because he's a Trump guy, right? Exonerating Flynn will help the president, it is calculated, so the Flynn conviction must stand at all costs. And those costs are mounting. The trial judge, Emmett Sullivan, bizarrely has refused to accept the Justice Department's painful admission that Flynn was wrongfully prosecuted. Instead of ending the case that both sides wanted to end, Judge Sullivan hired a friend of the court, quote unquote, to keep the case going. This person, former Judge Gleason, applied for the job of friend of the court by writing an editorial in the Washington Post. Perfect. To get Trump forces are now arguing that Flynn has exposed himself to perjury by withdrawing his plea. No. That's not how it works. Oh my God. Before Flynn had access to the documents Van Grack withheld, he had to rely on the word of the prosecutor. So now the original plea of guilty is being cast as a criminal act. That is bizarre and cruel. No, you always have the option to change your plea. But that's what they're trying. They're trying to say he committed perjury by pleading guilty in the first case. The three times during his questioning, Judge Wilkins suggested denying the motion to give political forces outside the criminal process an opportunity to pressure the prosecutor to change his decision. What does Judge Wilkins mean by pressure? Was he referring to the George Floyd riots and protests? That might seem absurd in a case that has nothing to do with race, but Judge Wilkins introduced race anyway. Suppose you have a case where law enforcement officers plead guilty to a criminal civil rights violation for using excessive force, and then the government moves to dismiss because the victim is black. The defendant, law enforcement officer, is white, and the government, did not believe the jury would believe a black victim over a white officer. Is that proper? That's his example. Say what? This case is nothing like that hypothetical. The government attorney said it respectfully as possible, but Judge Wilkins brought up this scenario an astonishing 3 times during the short proceedings. Was he honestly trying to compare Michael Flynn's alleged false statement to a white police officer beating a black victim? Sidney Powell, Flynn's attorney, clearly was surprised and shell-shocked by the utter lack of interest by the court in her client's factual innocence. The oral arguments and questions from the judges are mired in archaic procedural points, but in the end, all 3 judges seem reluctant to end Judge Sullivan's detour and frolic. What could be the harm in allowing Judge Sullivan to have a hearing before sustaining the motion? Powell was utterly exasperated. Everybody else in the case is being paid by the government except my client's team. The toll it takes on a defendant to go through this is enormous and not justified in this case, Powell answered. The government added that Judge Sullivan's hearing will force the government to put out evidence regarding how it reached the decision to stop prosecuting Flynn. That is the kind of judgment that is at the core of Article 2 power. Outside of running the military, it is difficult to imagine a more core Article 2 function. Yeah, that's a bullshit argument. Holy shit. We're going to move on. Let's see. I will skip this one. Apparently, a lawyer who's been has suppressed some police shooting videos happens to be giving money to one of the heads of the Congressional Black Caucus, and we're just saying like the maxing out, for example. So that's interesting. Also, a Border Patrol agent was found dead on a remote trail in New Mexico. 26-year-old Border Patrol agent was found dead on a remote trail in New Mexico, Hidalgo County last week. Fox News reported that Johan Morden was found unresponsive lying in a trail after other Customs and Border Protection officials went looking for him when they lost contact with the young agent. It's unclear what caused Morden's death, and an autopsy will be performed to determine the cause of death. Border Patrol officials issued a press release Saturday regarding his death. On Thursday, June 11, 2020, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agent Johan Morden of the Lordsburg station was working in the remote Boot Heel area of New Mexico when agents lost communication with him. Search ensued, and within minutes, responding agents found BPA Morden unresponsive lying on the trail. Agents immediately began CPR, and air support was requested for extraction. The agents worked exhaustively to try to save him. Unfortunately, BPA Morden could not be revived. All proper notifications and investigative protocols had been initiated. Morden entered on duty with CPB and the U.S. Border Patrol on July 8, 2019 as a member of the Session 1127 and was 26 years old at the time of his death. An autopsy will be conducted to determine the cause of death. Don't know if there is... We don't know if there's any foul play in this or not. So I guess we'll have to wait to hear more on that story. I'm going to skip Chris Wallace, but apparently he was blasting the New York Times over the little kerfluffle over Senator Tom Cotton writing an editorial, and then the editorial staff losing their mind, and they lost an editorial editor, had to resign because of it. He ripped them to shreds on Fox News Sunday, but I'm going to skip that one. This one is interesting. An NBC News anchor asked Tim Scott if he is a token black member of the GOP. Holy shit. He's the fucking senator elected statewide by the state of South Carolina. If he's a token black, Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina is probably tired of questions about being a black man in the Republican Party, the liberal media that continue to ask him about it, can't hide their own racism. As if Scott is too stupid to think for himself and doesn't want to join the others on the Democratic Party. I hate this phrase. Democratic Party plantation. I don't like that phrase, but anyway. But the journalists are oblivious to their own racist attitudes. They believe they occupy a position of moral supremacy over Republicans despite all the evidence to the contrary. NBC's Craig Melvin of the network's third hour of the Today Show apparently just couldn't help himself. The moment occurred during an interview with NBC's Craig Melvin, who pressed Scott to respond to a number of questions about the senator's efforts towards criminal justice reform and the White House's response to the national debate surrounding the wrongful death of George Floyd. "Senator, you have faced a fair amount of criticism," Melvin said, "especially over the past few days because you are the only black Republican senator." Well, thanks for reminding me, Craig. I didn't realize that I'm the only black Republican senator because no one's ever noticed that before or told me or brought it to my attention. Now, one would think that because there are so few blacks in the Senate, Scott's position alone would be a cause for celebration. Not so fast. And if he's the only black Republican senator, why should that be a cause of criticism? The NBC anchor, who is black, added, "Some have said that your party is using you. They've even thrown around the word token as well." Wait, who are they? Not in the party, they haven't. Your response to that criticism? Some people say the ubiquitous studies show are code words for I say, and this is what I think. It's rank dishonesty that lazy reporters who don't want to prepare for an interview with an intelligent man fall back on that to make themselves sound knowledgeable in their brain. So to maintain the appearance of objectivity and to dodge being held responsible for stating their own controversial thoughts, reporters often couch their questions in terms of a shadowy they who are saying something. The extra pathetic thing in the specific case of Melvin's interview with Scott is that the NBC anchor does not quite seem to believe that the senator is a token. Melvin does appear to believe, however, that there may be merit to the criticism, so he goes so far as to give airtime to nameless persons. Remember, the anchor offers no citation of the slur against Scott, who says the senator is a puppet of his mostly white overlords. This is only one step below Melvin himself outright calling Scott a token. Wow.
Your life makes me sad.
Anyway, that's just disgusting. That kind of shit pisses me off. All right, let's get into a little Twitter trendetry. Before I move on, though, thank you, Necrosuck Collins. I already did that, and he retweeted all three of you. So yeah, everyone who thank you for retweeting everyone who tweeted out the show. Again, thank you, Maddie, Lindsay, Necrosaw Collins, and Cindy Rochelle for tweeting out the show today. Also, Ctron the cat image. Now, I'm not sure who that is in my chat, but that's how you follow me on Twitter, and so thank you also for retweeting the show. Let's check out let's check out the Explore tab. What's up on top? I think it's COVID-19 again. Oh, no. 60 and 6 on Kibi. Okay, that's the isn't that new streaming platform that I don't care, it's stupid. Let's just oh, good gracious. Supreme Court rules that federal law protects gay and transgender workers from discrimination. Okay. And Sotomayor is trending. Why? 6-3 decision written by Gorsuch, joined by Roberts, Ginsburg, Sotomayor, Breyer, and Kagan, finding that Title VII protects LGBT people. Wait a minute. Roberts, Sotomayor, Gorsuch, written by Gorsuch. He was a Republican appointed, and Roberts, okay. Holy shit, the good guys won the LGBT cases. Okay, I'm not sure. Let's see. First, SCOTUS opinion, number 17. Asking Title VII protections against sex discrimination includes discrimination based on sexual orientation. Okay. I'd be interested in reading that. We'll get to that later. Let's get to the actual trends now, though. We got 2 more notifications there. Thank you, Chi-Town Jay, for tweeting out the show, or retweeting. All right, back to the Explore tab, back to trending. Let's trending number 1. I'm going to guess it's, okay, the SCOTUS ruling. Here's a little more detail. On Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 6-3 decision that a key provision of the 1964 Civil Rights Act protects LGBTQ employees from workplace discrimination. Chief Justice John Roberts joined the majority of the ruling. Well, Gorsuch wrote the ruling. Interesting. That is very fascinating. You know what? Fine. Good. I don't know the case at all, but they're also, let's see, what else does the court do? Supreme Court won't consider limiting police immunity from civil lawsuits. Justice decision not to hear any new cases follow the recent death of George Floyd, a black man in Minneapolis. Okay, that's interesting too. All right, so that's the number 1 trending thing. Let's see what else is on here. Gorsuch is trending because he wrote it. Kavanaugh is trending probably because he was in dissent. Oh, Brett Kavanaugh's a piece of shit. Brett Kavanaugh might be the only person who consistently lives up to my expectations. Garbage. As amazed as people are that Roberts and Gorsuch joined the liberal judges, this should have been a 9-0 opinion. This reinforces the naked partisanship of Kavanaugh, Alito, and Thomas, who will find a way to contort themselves into Fox News' point of view regardless of president. Well, how about we read their decisions? I don't know anything about this case, so I guess I'll have to go and read the decisions and what they're what they're reasoning. Brett Kavanaugh and Clarence Thomas were two of the three dissenters on the SCOTUS decision to protect LGBTQIA rights because misogyny and sexual violence are deeply and extremely linked with transphobia and homophobia, and you cannot fight one without fighting all four. Okay, so those three are getting dragged. Okay, whatever. It may be because of a ruling, a actual reading of the text, which sometimes, especially Clarence Thomas, is very strict on text when it comes to things like that. Ted Cruz is trending. Don't know why, because everybody, the people who hate Ted Cruz. Did Ted Cruz respond this way when Trump demeaned his wife? Okay, I get it. You're rich, but apparently soft. You sure seem scared to wrestle Jordan. Oh, because people were Ron Perlman. There's a little kerfuffle between Ron Perlman and Matt Gaetz, and then Ron Perlman had said something about between Trump and Gaetz, they're goofy looking, but the ugliest one of all is Jim Jordan. Wait a minute, Ron Perlman? Dude, have you ever looked in the mirror? Do you know why they chose you to play Hellboy? Because you're an ugly motherfucker. You just shouldn't be telling anybody who's ugly anyway. Whatever. Whatever. Who cares? Now Ted Cruz. Ron Perlman is everyone's favorite. What's a good word for it? Dickhead in Hollywood. There you go. Don't care. That's just some Twitter bullshit. Money motivation, money thoughts will skip. Justice for Toyin. Now this is interesting. There's a protester in Florida. Okay, so this woman is in Florida on the Black Lives Matter, kind of the protests, for somehow very well known in Florida. And apparently she was a victim of sexual assault and was killed. And she actually had tweeted about it, and then the guy came back and killed her, or at least they found her dead after she tweeted about it. And so now there's a lot of people tweeting about this woman who was out on the front lines of the protest, articulating her, disdain for what happened to George Floyd and what's happening to black men. The girl got murdered. You're right. There is no confirmation on it. She was found dead. And so now a lot of the people are dragging just black men in general. Well, and it's interesting because one of the statements that I read, maybe it'll be in this top tweet still. It's interesting because they say that a black woman is murdered every 19 hours. This is included. When they say this they included trans women, whatever, every 19 hours. And I was calculating that. As far as I took 7,000 black men. It turned out like every hour there's a black man murdered in the United States, also by probably black men. But it's the irony of this, and I rest in peace to this young woman. I don't know anything about her other than she's a protester, and she, I've seen a couple of her clips on YouTube, talking in front of the people in Florida. In fact, this is one of them right here. But the irony that she's is Black Lives Matter going to have protests in the street for her death? There's a lot of rest in peace to her, or rest in power, whatever you want to call it. But she wasn't killed by police. They don't think there's speculation she wasn't killed by a white dude. What's gonna happen with that? Rest in peace to this woman. No, I know. I just don't want anyone to feel bad. So why is Scalia trending? Scalia's not on the court anymore. Here's a copy of the Supreme Court's decision outlawing unemployment discrimination against LGBTQ people. Here's Alito accusing Gorsuch of betraying Scalia. Alito is mad. Okay, so what does this say? The court's attempt to pass off its decision as the inevitable product of the textualist school of statutory interpretation championed by our late colleague, Justice Scalia, but no one should be fooled. The court's opinion is like a pirate ship. It sails under a textualist flag, but what it actually represents is a theory of statutory interpretation that Justice Scalia excoriated. The theory that courts should update old statutes so that they better reflect the current values of society. Again, I knew that this was probably going to be, that was the word I couldn't think of, a textualist argument by the three who dissented, saying that no, the court can't change the laws by updating text. It has to be done by the legislature. Interesting. So the people are talking about Scalia too, which, Scalia's gone. So justices, that's trending. Are there any happy Pride Month? Yeah. Oh my God. Can you imagine if this ruling went the other way during Pride Month? There'd probably be more riots, but they'd probably be a lot more organized and aesthetically pleasing in some ways, I suppose. Anyway, Nature Photography Day. Here I don't care. That's it for Twitter Trends today. That's it for the show today. Hey, what's up? Oh, Check Your Logic. How you doing? And Johnny Hellcat. How you doing? Anyway, where was that? I just saw it. Ron Perlman's face looked like it was carved with a trowel blade. Ron Perlman could play in Planet of the Apes without any need for makeup or CGI effect. All right, you got about a minute and a half to put your best Ron Perlman insult in the chat, and I will read them. Thanks, everybody, for joining me today on the Morning Night Live. I didn't shill today, but hey, the show is brought to you by you. Please share this stream before or after the fact or during. Or if you're watching the replay, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section so I can say, hey there. And I do read the comments. I don't get to, I don't always reply to them right away, but I do read them almost every day. Also, if you like what we did today, please let me know by hitting that like button. There were 50 people here today. I didn't even know there was this many people here today. I never looked at the dashboard again. There's only 49 here, but there's 24 likes. Hit the like button, or Duck Dog, you can do your thing too. Ron Perlman's face looks like a spleen. A weak mind, but a face like a lion. Ron Neanderthal Perlman. Okay, keep it going. I'm ready. And then also, I shared it on Twitter. Yes, thank you, Pete. And also, thank you for the people who super chatted today. Kingslayer, Damocles, Black Hebrew Israelite. This is Kyle. The super chats are very encouraging and give me great incentive to keep doing what I do, even though this show is free. And just having y'all come and just listen to me and get a nice conversation going in the chat, that's always awesome too. So good. Glad I once Googled what it means. If you're hidden from an account, your phenomenon sounded like the answers I was given. I think we figured out. That's Check Your Logic saying that. Yeah, Amy, you're we can see you again. I hope you knew that. All right, guys, I gotta go. This has been a fantastic day. I'm here Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, 1500 GMT for my friends down under, like, I drew a blank. Richo and Malia Carr for my friends down under who watch the show. Or there's a couple from Ireland, England, and there's some people from around the world. I'm getting an international audience. That's kind of exciting. But anyway, I gotta go. Thank you. My name is PDawg Knight, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is PDawg Night, and thank you for watching today on the PDawg Night channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterward so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through the Streamlabs link, which is also in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm PDawg Night, and I'm out of here.